Hello, good evening, good afternoon.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Let me know, please, if you can see the presentation, if you can hear us.
Just
And I
classes
think we
in the
would,
chat will be enough. Yeah.
yep. We'll wait for a few minutes for everyone to join, and then we would start with our first lecture of this of the AWS DevOps course. Okay. I hope you already had a chance to take a look at the tasks, and you already know what awaits us in this journey. And another duty, mine and Ivan, to let's say guide you through all of these tasks and try to give you the brief walkthrough through all of the theoretical parts of these tasks.
Yeah, it's the first lecture and an introduction to the first task. And also just showing how to work with the tasks and the course itself also. Just briefly.
Okay, so there's all the 30 people. I think we are good to go. So hello everyone once again. So today we will give you a lecture about the task number 1. We will try to explain you the, as I already said, the theoretical part of this one, and we will try to show you and explain what you're gonna do and how you should complete your test. So let's take a look at today's agenda. It's quite small, but still. First of all, we would briefly touch such a topic as AWS cloud computing. So we'll try to explain you what cloud computing is and how AWS can help us in learning and how can we use it in our future profession. Next, we will briefly touch the AWS IAM resource from the AWS, which helps us to manage users inside the AWS. Next one would be about the Terraform. Terraform is quite powerful, and I think one of the most popular, or maybe, I think it's the most popular tool to manage your infrastructure as a code. And as the last part of today's lecture, we will talk about the GitHub Actions, which is actually a CI/CD tool which you can already try and find out how it works. So let's get started, I think. Cloud computing. I just hope you can see it nice and clean on your screen, but a few words about it. So not a long time ago, to deploy your application and to make it up and running, or maybe not application, but any service or tool on your project or on your job, you have to buy the real server, install it somewhere, provide the necessary temperature, humidity for this one, and maintain it somehow. And from year to year, the server may be not enough for you, and you may want to buy a new one, and that would be the additional expenses. And at this point, the cloud computing, this is where cloud computing comes to stage, actually. So with cloud computing, we can just, let's say, rent the computing resources and use them as we need them. So to understand this model, so in the AWS, you already may see, but creating the virtual machine, one of the smallest one, would cost you something like $5 a month. But you also can create this machine and then destroy it in 1 hour or so. And you will be charged only for this small amount of time when you use it. And this is quite cool because some of our computes or which are necessary for in our calculations or something like this, it's not necessary to run them 24/7. So you may easily run them whenever you need them. So in other words, on demand. And another cool feature about this one, so let's say if you already have one virtual machine and the maintaining of this machine would be only half on your shoulders. You would be responsible to run security patches, provision something what you want inside of this machine. But for the life cycle of this machine, AWS would be responsible. And this model, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's called shared responsibility model. And this is where we have the different models of services. So first of all, it's infrastructure as a service. In this case, as I explained earlier, the cloud provider, in our case, it's AWS, they just provide us the virtual machines, so computing power, in other words. There is also the platform as a service. To easily explain this one, I think, so for example, it may be like the Dropbox. So you're just using the platform where you can store all of the necessary files, resources, photos, videos, whatever on this machine. And you are just paying and using this platform. And there is also software as a service. By the software as a service, I think maybe it's something like Microsoft 365, for example. So whenever you're just paying for the license and then you're using it. And in this course, we would mostly work, I think, with the infrastructure as a service, because we would work with the virtual machines, which we'll create in the AWS, and we would use them to create and install all the necessary resources and tools to make our DevOps stuff up and running. So I think let's move on. And the next part is about IAM. In the AWS, we have plenty of services, and all of the services need to talk to each other. And maybe not on the list. Okay, let's start from the scratch. First of all, when you're logging into your AWS console, to log into your AWS console, you should have the root account. Root account is such it's the most privileged account in your account. Okay, sorry for the tautology. And using AWS IAM, you can create another one with the permissions only sufficient enough for the particular tasks. We will take a look at it a bit later because even in this task, if I remember it correctly, we would need to create the special policies to make our AWS able to work with the GitHub Actions without storing somewhere any credentials. And another part where AWS IAM can help us is policies. So we can create a policy for some particular resource. So let's say it would be the virtual machine, make it able for this virtual machine to make the direct calls to the S3 bucket, for example. And there is actually plenty of examples where this one may help, and almost all of them dedicated to the security. But we will take a look at it a bit later. And actually, this Thursday, if you already saw the example, the announcement, we are planning to run the AWS workshop about the IAM. it would be a bit more advanced level when just creating the user inside the AWS, but still, you will learn so many ways and so many tweaks how to work with AWS IAM. Ivan, you have something to share, something else to share?
Yeah, regarding to AWS workshop, actually we will walk through the basics as well at the start. So feel free to go even without preparation, but I really advise you to take a look at the documentation for IAM or just read what it is, at least, to have an idea of what we will work on.
Mhm. And actually, the best benefit about the AWS workshops is that you will be guided not only by the documentation, but also by Ivan himself. So he will try to help you to understand what's happening, first of all. And if you're struggling to make something, if you have any problems or questions, you'll be able to ask them directly on the workshop and get all of the answers. And as well, you will have the hands-on experience with the IAM, which is quite cool because this is the one you can even write down in your CV, for example, or just have an idea about a bit more in-depth ideas behind the IAM.
Or get
So
some tweaks for the task that you will be doing this week.
yeah, definitely. Okay. So, and then in our task also, I think the best, the biggest part of in our first task dedicated to the Terraform. So, what Terraform is? Actually, it's a tool. So you may just install it on your computer, on your local computer, and with this one, you can manage all of this infrastructure which you are creating inside your AWS account, but as a code. It may sound difficult actually because writing code, learning a new language, but it's not about it. Because the syntaxes of the Terraform is quite easy to understand and quite easy to read, so human readable. And there is so many documentation about this one. So whenever you want to create any resource, you may just go to the official documentation of the Terraform and find out how to create EC2 instance, let's say, or S3 bucket, and which options you may configure inside the Terraform, and how can you manage the state of this resource, let's say. Another good thing about the Terraform, but it has so many, it's called providers. Providers helps us to make Terraform be able to, let's say, translate in our Terraform, write in Terraform code inside the API calls to so many of popular cloud providers. So on this one, you may see that as example, there's AWS, GCP, Azure, and as mentioned in here, so actually this is a screenshot from the official Terraform documentation. So there is more than 1,000 providers. And even if you are creating your own virtual provider using, for example, OpenStack, but with some extra steps, let's say, you may write your own provider for the Terraform and share it with the HashiCorp, and it would be available for everyone who would try to, who'd want to use your computer clouds. How Terraform works? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I would like to add that Terraform is not all about the cloud providers, but also about services themselves. So, for example, there are providers for databases like Postgres. So you will be able to define your Postgres structure, your database structure inside Terraform and see it all the time. It's really interesting in a way of visibility of what you're working with. And I want to add also that in Terraform, all the infrastructure is declared the way you will be able to see the full complete structure at one time. So the Terraform works the way Anton will tell you a bit later, but I'll just say that you will see complete picture even before starting working with Terraform CLI itself.
Yeah, and actually quite good thing is, but if you are diligent enough, so you may not need to go to the AWS console at all. So you may just create all of the resources inside your Terraform code, create all of these resources by running the Terraform plan, Terraform apply, and that's it. All of these resources would be created inside your AWS account. And whenever you're thinking about, okay, so how many EC2 instances I have right now in my account? So you may just go to your code, and it would be sometimes a bit more comfort way to take a look on what's happening inside your account and what resources do you have and what else you want or need to create. So, and another thing is, but Terraform also storing the state of all of the resources it created. So, okay, there's maybe time for some questions. The question for you, my fellow students. So what do you think going to happen if I create some code, which is creating the EC2 instance, and then I applying it with the Terraform, and now I can go to the AWS console and make sure that this EC2 instance is created, that it is up and running. And what's going to happen? What do you think? If I've run the Terraform apply once again, what do you think? So let me know in the chat. I just want to make sure that we are talking about the same thing and understand each other.
Are there any options for guesses? Or
I'm not sure.
no?
Okay, let's start from something obvious. So it would be just created. It would be not created for some reason. And maybe another one, it would be recreated. Nothing happened, I think. When creating resources because they have a state. Yep, definitely. So I'm glad we are talking, we understand each other. So you're absolutely right. So whenever you are trying to apply the same Terraform code once again, nothing would happen because Terraform also stores the state of the resources in which they are created right now. But maybe the only way something may possibly go wrong. So if you're going to the Terraform state and removing something from here, but actually it's not the best practice, and it's not a good idea to do something like this because at this point the Terraform code would stop to be the source of truth about your resources, and you will already have some duplicating resources or something like this. And that would be not managed by Terraform anymore. Another good thing about the Terraform is that you can not just create the resources, but you also can destroy them. And this is what I encourage you to do during this course. So whenever you created some, if I remember correctly, it should be 3 instances at the second task. Yeah, we'll go a bit further. talk about it a bit in the future. When you created 3 instances with the Terraform code, and then you applied this code, these 3 instances would be created in the AWS console, as I said, on your account. But you also may say, by running the Terraform destroy command, now sure you're prompted about, okay, are you sure you want to destroy all of these resources? And whenever you're saying yes, all of these resources would be destroyed from your account, and you would not be charged for them. So it's quite convenient and budgetly safe method to work and to learn something about the computing instances. But I think I will tell you something, some more about it a bit later. And now I think, yeah, maybe one more thing to mention, worth mentioning, is but storing Terraform state on your local machine is not usually a good idea, because almost anything may happen with the state and you would lose all of your information about currently created machines or any services inside the AWS. So this is why in the task number 1, you would need to create the S3 bucket. It should be, I think, 2 S3 buckets, and you should manage. You should configure your Terraform to store and get the information about your current state, current Terraform state, on this S3 bucket. And actually, it would help you to not to lose your Terraform state and to work whenever you want with the same files.
Also, I would say one more thing about states. Terraform stores everything in the state. So all the sensitive information that you probably will have in the state file and in the AWS will be stored. So the practice of using S3 buckets allow to restrict access to the sensitive information that can be stored in these state files. So this one more reason not to use local machine or store in GitHub, for example.
Yeah, exactly. So I think let's move on. I hope you will have enough time to try Terraform in each ways. Actually, it inspired me so hard whenever I first tried the Terraform. So you just write in, let's say, 5 or 6 or, okay, maybe less than 10 strings of code. And it's just enough to create a virtual machine, which you already can use and in any way that you want. So it's a good idea just to give it a try, and then everything would be clean and understandable for you about the Terraform. Sure, there is some advanced topic about the Terraform, but right now we are talking only about the basics, which is necessary to create all of the tasks from this course. And I think the
One more
last
thing,
topic
regarding
yeah.
Regarding previous topic, sorry. There is a question regarding Terraform state. Yeah, so you please feel free to use Terraform for the first bucket, or you can do it manually. It's up to you.
Oh, it's if you are talking about the task itself, yeah, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Went ahead of the plan.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, let's move on. So, and now we'll briefly talk about the GitHub Actions. So actually, GitHub Actions appeared in our course in the, I think it was the latest implementation of the course, because it's quite cool to understand how GitHub Actions works. And once again, it may sound a bit hard and complicated, but actually it's just a tool to make it able to create something with your code, to run it, and to store the artifacts from this code, some maybe the build applications, and even deploy them without any charges. So GitHub already provides you with such an option. So whenever you're creating your application and you need to build it and you need to deploy it, you always may use the GitHub Actions. I think it's quite enough for the most of the CI/CD tasks. But uh, anyway, I think that Jenkins is maybe more popular from two of these. I'm not sure. But yeah, anyway, we will talk with you about the GitHub Actions and the Jenkins as well. So what GitHub Actions helps us to do? Imagine you have a repository for your application, and now you're just pushing the changes inside your repository, and you don't want to go to the some kind of the virtual machines, try to pull all of the changes from your repository, and then run I don't know, npm run build, npm run install by yourself. This is all of the tasks which you may place on the shoulders of GitHub Actions. So by using these, by using of this pretty human readable language, which is used in the GitHub Actions, it's YAML, and you can just explain the steps which GitHub Actions should do whenever he get triggered. Triggers may be different, so you may just run it by yourself by running this start button, or you may set it up to fetch all of the new commits, all of the new pushes to your repository, and in this case, it would be triggered. And then, step by step, you are explaining the GitHub Actions what to do. So first of all, you are saying, okay, go ahead and just take clone my repository to get all of the necessary code inside this container, which would be created especially for you to create all of your duties. Next, by after fetching all of the changes, after fetching all of the whole your repository, you may build your application inside of this container, and as well as you can deploy it. So you may use SSH or whatever you want to go to your remote virtual machine and then just deploy this application. And what else is good about this one? But you don't need to install anything. So in case of Terraform, okay, you should go to the official Terraform page, try to get the application itself and install it, or use any kind of package managers if you are running Linux or macOS. But in this case, everything is already up and running. So right inside of your GitHub account. So you may try to use it right now. But in this task, we are encouraging you to create your own GitHub Actions pipeline to run Terraform. So by implementing this one, you would be able just to click on the button inside the GitHub, and it would be enough to create or destroy or just take a look on what resources you already have. And this is it. So just maybe 15, 50 lines of code or something like this, and it would be enough. I think that's it from the perspective of the theory. Yeah, very solid Q&A. But now I think we may take a look at how an our repository looks like. So just to understand what we're going to do and how should we submit our job. It's just that. So it's like here. Let me share my screen. Yeah, this one. I hope you can see it. If it's necessary, maybe I can make it a bit wider, like this. So where is the idea of an hour task? So first of all, you would need to install the AWS CLI. Oh, Ivan, could you maybe remind me about the purposes of the AWS CLI?
Just to check
Okay.
that everything is
Yeah.
working
So
and that you configured, for
yeah,
example, the first account.
yeah. Anyway, it's good to have because you may find the necessary information by not only going by the AWS console, but directly from your terminal, which sometimes quite a bit more convenient than going to the console itself. Next, you would need to install the Terraform. Uh, it's a good idea to install the latest one, but in this case, just make sure that you have something prior the 1.6. There is a optional configuring Terraform version manager.
Yeah, it's pretty convenient to have different versions for Terraform and switch between them using one command, and not reinstalling everything all the time.
Okay, and as a next step, you'll need to create the okay, maybe it should be somewhere in the start. So first of all, you would need to create your AWS account, and then you would need to create the user, which is a bit less privileged with the root one. Because if for some reason you would lose the control of your root account, it would be quite hard to restore the success. So if some cyber I don't know, so some hackers would stall it, it would be almost impossible to restore the access to your account. So it's always a good idea to create the one which is less privileged. So in any case, you may have an option to go to log in with your root account and just deactivate the one that was stolen. This is the policies you would need to attach. Actually, there is plenty of documentation inside of the AWS itself about how to create this account. But as a best practice, you'd also need to create the multi-factor authentication, because just logging in the login and password is not usually a good idea, because it's quite easy to compromise it. But whenever you have the MFA activated in your account would be much more secure. And yeah, sure, don't forget to install to configure the MFA on both root and this new account. But we would need to create to configure the AWS CLI. So you would need just to install the AWS CLI and then configure it by running, if I remember correctly, AWS configure. You would be asked about your desired region and be about your credentials, if I remember correctly. And next, you would need to create your own repository in the GitHub. So some people already asked about the repository which had been created by registering on the course. I'm not sure how this one may help us, and even I think you can forget about this one and maybe just delete it and run and create your own new public repository to make it visible for the students who would be responsible to check your job, to check the test which you create. Next, we would need to create the buckets with the Terraform. As I already said, you would need to create the Terraform, to install the Terraform itself, and then you would need to write some piece of code to create S3 buckets. So, and as someone mentioned already, so you may create, I think, only one bucket with the Terraform, but the second one, which would be used to store the states, I think it's a bit better to create this one with by your hands inside the AWS console. So just do not accidentally delete it entirely by Terraform destroy. As a next step, you would need to create another account. And Ivan, could you please expand a bit on this one?
Since we use the user for configure for using locally, using with the Terraform locally, using just AWS CLI and everything. Actually, it's not the way that is working for authentication from machine to machine. And basically, what AWS provides is using roles for this. And since the first task is about creating the pipeline that uses your account to configure all the resources and apply them, we need an identity for this pipeline to work with your account, and which will have some accesses for the resources you want it to create or manage. And because of this, we need additional GitHub Actions role.
Okay,
That
so
will have probably the same access almost.
okay, so in other words, yeah, it's just a bit more convenient and secure way to make GitHub work within our AWS account, right?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. So we don't need anymore to store credentials somewhere in GitHub. Sure, it's still a thing. So, but as a best practices, yeah, we're encouraging you to use the identity providers to create the connection between the GitHub Actions and your AWS account.
Yeah, I want to stress it. Please don't store credentials in the GitHub. Please just don't do this.
Okay. So, and as the last part of the task, you'll need to create the GitHub Actions workflow or pipeline, maybe in our words, which would be used to check linting inside of your Terraform code, plan all of the resources. So under the plan Terraform, in the Terraform, under the plan, we understand the procedure in which Terraform tried to get in our code, which we have just written, and try to compare it to the existing resources, but not the existing resources, but to the Terraform state. And then when Terraform sees some difference between this one, it says as, okay, so you already have 3 instances, but it looks like in your code there is already 4 instances. So would you like to create a new one? And you will be prompted at such a question. And if you say, okay, maybe not in this case, but if you're after the plan, if you are saying, okay, Terraform apply, one more instance would be created. And it would also work, I think, in another way. So whenever you are just removing the instance from the code and then trying to plan and apply, so this instance would be just removed from the from your Terraform state as well as from your AWS account. And here down below, you may see the evaluation criteria for this task. So as you can see, the GitHub Actions workflow have the one of the most points. So it's quite crucial for you to understand how it works and to implement the pipeline. Pipeline should contain, as they wrote in here, so 3 jobs: to check, plan, and apply. So you would be by implementing this, you should be able to create on the button, so run Terraform check, and it should just give you all of the possible changes inside of your code. So, and maybe show you somewhere whenever you have some mistakes, let's say. And actually, the same applies to the plan and apply. So you would just run the pipeline, and everything should work right inside the GitHub account. So user configurations, okay, back in GitHub role configured. You would have a look at this one, code organization. Few words about the code organization. So you always may just write or describe all of your resources inside one Terraform file. But it's not the best idea, because if you or maybe the colleague which would come to your position after you would try to understand what's happening in here, and then you would just open this repository and find out that there is only main.tf file with the thousands of lines, it would be hard to navigate inside of this file and hard to understand what's happening inside this. So as a best practices, we encourage you to use some meaningful names for your files. So for example, VMs.tf. And this file you would use to create the virtual machines. So VPC.tf to create the virtual private networks inside the AWS. And the same about the rest of the resources. So in this task, I think we would only talk about the S3 buckets, so it would be enough just to create s3.tf. And you would not need to create any relations between these files, because whenever you are running the Terraform init inside of the folder which contains the necessary files from the Terraform, all of the files would be applied to this repository. So by creating the bunch of the files and running Terraform plan, it would be enough for Terraform to understand that you want to create all of the resources from all of these files. And it would create the schedule in which one it should create all of the resources, because imagine you would need to create the some kind of network and then place the EC2 instance inside of these networks. So Terraform is smart enough to understand that, first of all, it should create the network and then get the idea of this network and create the EC2 instance inside of the network with this particular ID. So by creating the different separate files for separate types of resources, and also by storing the variables inside the separate file as well, your code would be much more readable, much more configurable, and maybe flexible for any upcoming changes. Resources into different files, okay, and variables in different separate files. You may find all of this information about the best practices and how to use Terraform in the best and most convenient way. All of this you may find in the Terraform documentation, which I believe we provided to you somewhere. What it is? Okay, yeah, I think this one. But I will double check and provide you with the link to the documentation, I think in the Discord channel. And what about the rest of it? Yep.
Yeah, just scroll it up. There are Terraform best practices just in the middle of the task description. So please take a look at the links that are included in the task, but I strongly encourage you to Google everything you don't understand at this moment. So you will be able to dive into this, and you'll see that it's not really something really difficult. So just try.
Yeah, and also in the era of the generative AI, I think by copying and pasting all of these empty file inside the ChatGPT, it would really help you. And maybe you also have the working solution. But if you're doing this, please, after you get in the response from the ChatGPT, for example, make sure that you understood what it provides you and where maybe you can do it maybe better, or how could you improve this one. It would help you a lot. because I can understand, but okay, reading all of this, install Terraform and create all of these resources, it may sound difficult and hard, but actually Terraform is quite convenient and user-friendly solution. So you may just try and test something. And whenever you failed, whenever you forgot something, whenever you forgot something to specify, you would always be provided with the output about the error and about the problem which Terraform faced. And you would be able just to Google it and solve it. But whenever you're looking for the complete solution and asking ChatGPT to complete it, to make something, please really make sure that you understood what it provides you, what it gives you as a response. It's quite crucial and quite crucial really to understand what you do. And actually Terraform, the GitHub Actions, not that hard as it looks like. So you may just go ahead and try something like Hello World inside both of them, and you would understand that it's not that hard, really, not that complicated. So, but the verification, you should be able to run all of these jobs that you just created, and the documentation. So one of the biggest part of the systems engineer who is responsible for the DevOps stuff and his position is to create the sufficient documentation about the solutions he uses. Because sometimes it's not just Terraform. Sometimes it's it may be also some legacy, some just Python codes which are running inside Jenkins. So all what you do, it's a good practice and good idea to make it documented. And we're encouraging you to, by creating all of this Terraform stuff, create some quite neat and not big enough README file, which would contain all of the necessary information about how to use the solution. So it's a good idea to say, okay, in this repo, you may see the GitHub Actions pipeline, which is just deploying or destroying resources from this particular AWS account. And you may also see that there is the S3 bucket creation, and in this file you may find this, in this file you may find that, and so on. So just a brief explanation. So it's always a good idea to make a documentation on something you do. And the last one, submission GitHub Actions pipeline is passing. So, okay, yeah, in this case, we are talking about the GitHub Actions role, which we are using to run the pipelines, and the state is stored inside the bucket. And this additional 5 points is if your pipeline is passing. So, and as a result, at the end of this week, you should have your own repository, which should be public. There's some piece of Terraform code. There's some GitHub Actions pipeline, and a few screenshots about how you created your second account in the AWS console, and just to make sure that you also implemented the MFA. So, and yeah, there is notification in the brackets, so make sure there's no such information is shared inside your screenshot. What else? Maybe about a few words about the cross-check. I encourage all of you not just to check and make sure that everything is in place inside someone's job, but try to talk. Try to talk for the person you are checking task with. Because sometimes you may find the misunderstanding or something like this. And if you speak with this person and you understand that, okay, actually he understands all of this, but he just makes some mistake. Yeah, for some reason, who doesn't make the mistakes? And if you found out that he understood all of this, so don't deduct some points, or just don't deduct much points from his task. It's a good idea to be friendly and polite to your fellow students. But if you have some concerns, please feel free to ask us in the Discord chat, and we will try to help you as a mentors or as an activists, and try to find out what we can help and how can they do this much more convenient for you. At this point, I think we are done. Sure, you may ask all of the questions that you're interested in inside this chat on this translation. Let me take a look at the chat if there is already something. Okay, plenty of questions. Okay, it looks like we Ivan already answered on this one. Yeah, it's first lecture about the task number 1. Is links better work with several tasks compared to this? I don't know. Actually, it depends. So if it's convenient enough for you to work inside the Windows terminal, it doesn't matter. But it actually depends on the preferences. So if you are familiar with the Linux more than the Windows, it would be more convenient, a bit more convenient for you to work with Linux OS. Questions. Improve quality. Okay, we will try. Sorry. Yeah. We'll have a look at this one. We will try to find out what can we do. We apply. Are we supposed? Oh, looks like we already answered on this one. Yeah, right. So it's a good. Yeah. I think it's a good idea to create this one by your hand inside the AWS console. So just to make sure accidentally you would not remove and delete and destroy all of the resources, and this is a bucket as well, with Terraform.
You can actually create one bucket with your hands and create another bucket with Terraform. Using this
just to have some practice. Yeah, such a good idea. Okay, these GitHub Actions need to be run in GitHub repo. Yep. So actually, there is the special how to say page for the GitHub Actions. So whenever you're creating something under the I forgot how it should be called. So like that workflow or that GitHub Actions, something like this. I would take a look and I would let you know in the Discord. So whenever you're creating some pipelines inside of this folder, the GitHub would understand, but okay, this is regarding the pipelines and GitHub Actions. And you would be able to run this on the Actions page inside your GitHub repository.
And would like to say here that you won't need to configure any runners on your account. So please use the shared ones from GitHub itself. So it will be easier. And since GitHub provides about 2,000 hours a month for builds, I think it will be pretty enough for us.
Yeah, sure. Okay, should you create a group of users or just about the group? As a best practice, if I remember correctly, so it's a good idea to create the group of users and place your user inside of this group. So to manage the permissions in the bunch way. So not just setting up the permissions for each user. But right now, actually, it doesn't matter. But if you want to follow the best practices, so yeah, go ahead and create a group, and then this group place your user, create your user inside of this group. Don't delete this video. Okay. And it's kind of a tricky question because sometimes I see with people trying to censor it, sometimes not. But I would encourage you and I'd advise you to use this one as a sensitive information. So be as less as you can share, as better. Sensitive information. Could describe how to submit answer the task. It's clear to me. Such a good question. I think actually a screen should be enough. I'm not sure if it's a good idea to share with someone your actions, and is it even possible without the GitHub Professional license? I think I can take a look at this one. Okay. I would let you know about this one a bit later today in the Discord chat somewhere. So question about GitHub Actions. Okay, good enough. Okay, let's move on. Let's understand how cross-check works here. Could you guys give us an overview on how the solution should look in our public GitHub repo? How it should work? How it should look like? Okay. I think I would try to find someone because unfortunately I don't have the I have a bit different view on the app RS school because I'm highlighted here as an administrator. But I would try to find someone who may provide the maybe brief introduction on how it should look like and how it should work from the perspective of deploying the task or submitting this task and cross-checking. I will try to do it as soon as possible. So hopefully we have a Wednesday tomorrow. So maybe it would be kind of brief session for 15, 20 minutes. And we will try to show you how it looks like.
Is it like creating a pull request and just writing everything and putting everything there?
It's about providing an our solution, but I think there is also a question about how to submit this one. I'm not sure, but
I see.
I think it's the same question. So let's settle on, but I will try to find someone who can show to you with screen sharing how it looks like and how it should look like. There's no points for AWS CLI installation. There's no mention about evaluation criteria. Should go about AWS configure. I think it would be such a good option for you. So you might try to test it and try to find out how it works. So and make sure that you can not get the information about the existing resources in your account, not only by AWS console, but also from the AWS CLI right inside of your terminal. But actually, you are feel free to skip this one because yeah, I'm not sure if it would be necessary on the later tasks.
It's not necessary at all, but it's really convenient to have AWS CLI.
Yeah, and to understand how it works, because sometimes we're writing some legacy code using some Python, for example, and then just or no, just bash scripts and just running something like this just to make sure that everything's up and running. Yeah, maybe quite handy. Okay, next one. Okay. GitHub repo, first check submit page. How we should organize the repo considering common tasks. Yeah, it's a good question. I think to separate all of them, it's a good idea to use different branches and then create the pull requests. Yeah, uh, just to show only the changes that you've made. But I believe the second task would be also dedicated to the Terraform, but the rest of them would be about the Kubernetes. This is a place where we would use the different repository. Okay, once
I
again, it's a
suggest
question about
using common sense, but probably there will be many in creating the first directory called Terraform and putting everything regarding Terraform there, and then continue with other tasks. But feel free to use any structure you want. So I think it's not really connected to the course itself, to the tasks, but to your own convenience and to convenience of people who review your code as well.
Yeah, but sure, I would give you an update today about how it should look like and how to manage it in a more convenient way for you to work with it, and for someone who checking it, the more convenient way to check it. But we submit commit link. So maybe it's not a bad idea, but you may have the bunch of the commits. So if you're brave enough to squash all of them in one and then just provide them to the commit, why not? But I think we would think about the centralized solution, and yeah, the pull request looks more convenient in this case. Will this video be available later? Yep. And as all of the videos, all of the lectures we would provide to you. So all of them would be available on this YouTube channel. You may find them in the live section, I believe. And they would have the same naming convention, so it would be easier to navigate, for you to easier to navigate for them. If I submit the completed assignment and it's graded, can I revise it to score 100? I think I didn't fully get the question, but are you talking about if you're already graded but not with 100%, so and you want to change something inside of this one?
I think it's about fixing the solution or adjusting the solution to get more points after the cross check.
After this cross check. As I said a bit earlier, so I encourage you to be the community first of all, not like a teacher and student whenever you check in someone's job, someone's test. And in such cases, okay, if you really have a mistake inside of your test, so you would be deducted with, let's say, 2-3 points, something like this. But I encourage you, so if you're talking with the person, you just check the person, you just check job whom, and you understand that he understands all of this, but just make a typo, let's say, or just missed something, maybe not significant. Just talk to each other and try to find try to find a solution which would fit both of you. So, but if you're struggling with this one, so yeah, call for us and we will try to help you. Yeah, looks like the proposal about this one. Yeah, actually, the pull request strategy is quite good, and I think, as I said, I would give you an update about this one. We would talk and discuss how to make it in a more convenient way. But yeah, I think I'm mostly sure that we would use this one as well in this course.
I think we need the functionality of giving likes for the comments in the comment section.
Yeah, unfortunately. Okay, looks like a question. I think it's just an example. So even in the first task, we don't need to create any instances, I believe, because we would also need to create the buckets. And about the second one, yeah, we would create the instances, but I would also expand on this one, but in the next lecture. So it's not the topic about this one. Okay, so let's call it a day, I think. I can see any more questions. If I missed any, please, could you share once again? But if there is not, but if you would find some questions, if you would have some questions during this test, please feel free to ask all of the Power New questions inside the Discord channel. Because this is a place where you can easily seek for help, for the help of your fellow students or for the mentors. And we will try to help you, and you would not be left alone on this road. So we would always find a solution. So even if you not understand something, so okay, so how does Terraform understand that I already have some resources? What is Terraform state? Go ahead and ask all of these questions inside the chat, and we will try to find out the answers for all of you. And I think it's it. So thank you so much for being today with us here. And see you on Thursday, I hope. And I'm mentioning once again, but on this Thursday, we will have the AWS workshop. So this is a place where you can just try the AWS and don't care about any possible charges, any possible bills. So you'll be provided the account from the AWS, which is free of charge. And you would be able to create some tasks, some basics, some more advanced tasks, and ask the questions, answer them, and so quite good opportunity for all of you who want to try the AWS a bit deeper. Okay, so have a good rest of the day, and see you. Bye.
See ya. Bye.